bad movies, bad life advice, and even worse life decisions. We cover it all here on the Life with Kenny podcast. I'm your host, Kenny. Grab a beer, sit back, and relax for this week's episode, because things are about to get weird.
What's an all-American girl like you doing with a geek like this?
Forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Fuck me gently with the chainsaw.
Jimmy was off the hook. I know you really don't listen to Slipknot.
Judge Reinhold.
You are listening to a Life with Kenny podcast.
Not quite my tempo. It's all good. No worries. Here we go.
Okay, ready. Welcome to this week's episode of Movie Night, the podcast series where we discuss the best and worst movies in cinema history.
Damn, that was actually really good.
No, it wasn't.
It was. It was better than I normally do it. This week, I am joined by Melissa, and I am the host, Kenny, and Melissa is the one who read the amazing intro. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I feel like I'm on like somebody else's talk show for once, which is kind of cool.
But I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, well, let me tell you. This week, we are watching a movie from 2009 called Orphan.
Orphan. Black.
Orphan, starring Vera Farmiga, who plays Lorraine Warren in all the Conjuring movies, if you recognize her. She also plays Norma Bates in Bates Motel, the TV show.
Didn't watch that.
And it's also starring Isabel Fuhrman, who plays Clove in The Hunger Games.
Oh, I know that.
So that will be interesting, because I do not remember Clove at all, to be honest.
Well, like, she's probably a generic white lady.
She is. This movie is directed by Jean Collet-Serra, who also did the House of Wax remake, which...
You like that show?
I like that one. I think we should do that one next, maybe. And it was written by David Leslie Johnson, who wrote Aquaman, and he's written for The Walking Dead, and another gentleman named Alex Mace.
Wait, Orphan wrote Aquaman?
No. The guy who wrote Orphan
wrote Aquaman.
Also wrote Aquaman.
Sorry, that's what I meant. What? Like
Yeah.
the newest Aquaman?
Yeah.
This Orphan did a scary... No, the guy who wrote Orphan... Orphan is a scary movie, right?
Yeah. So the guy who produced Aquaman, his name is James Wan. He is also the guy who produced all of the Conjuring movies.
Oh.
So Aquaman was intended to have like a dark feel, but it also was like supposed to have some lightheartedness, which it did, which I think is why
Was
it was...
it kind of dark?
There's
I don't
parts.
remember it to be dark.
Parts. There's parts. Just like the vibe of it with like the storm and all the... There's
Evil,
like
like
darkness.
the evil fish.
Yeah, and Black Manta, like murdering people and shit, you know.
I suppose. Okay, yeah.
But we aren't talking about Aquaman, we're talking about Orphan.
Okay.
So, have you seen Orphan before?
No.
Do you know anything about it?
There's a girl with pigtails.
That's all you know?
Yep.
That's good, because we're going into it kind of blind. Orphan I watched for the first time, probably when it just about came out. Somebody I know used to be a big fan of torrenting movies and downloading them and burning them onto disc.
That's probably you.
You know, I contacted this somebody to see if I could get a copy of the movie because I don't have it and I couldn't find it on any streaming services. And luckily, they still had a copy of the movie. So it's not me. It might be somebody that I don't know anymore. But they were able to give me the copy of the movie. So we're going to watch it. Do you know why I picked this movie?
There was something going on, I read, that you tagged me in about a little girl. Or I don't know if it's a little girl or not.
Yeah, it's just
right?
like creepy little kids.
People adopted this
Creepy
girl.
little kids are like... people adopting kids that end up being really creepy.
Oh, I thought there was a
Is
specific article that you tagged me in, and there was this little...
There is, but that was like the reason I wanted to watch this movie was because of that.
Hate creepy kids.
Yeah. So we're gonna go watch Orphan and then come back and talk about it.
And we're gonna eat pizza.
Just
so everyone knows.
Just so everyone knows as well. After we record the Orphan episode, just in case you don't want to stick around for it, next week's episode is going to be a Life Legends episode where I tell Melissa all about the true life story that inspired this movie and also a viral story that I tagged her in that she hasn't read that is blowing up right now.
That's what I'm talking
super
about.
interesting. So we're going to talk about that the next episode too.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll talk about the coincidences and stuff later when we get onto that. So if you don't want to stick around for the feature presentation and our discussion on the movie, you can come back next week and hear some spooky real life stories about creepy little kids.
But I would suggest sticking around because you're already this far in. Am I right?
You are right. That means the pizza's ready. Okay, we'll be back. Okay, we just finished watching the movie. And Melissa, what do you think?
I didn't like it.
Do you regret watching it?
No.
Okay. Scale of 1 to 5.
It was real scary.
Was it scary?
Yeah.
What was so scary about it?
She would... The kids. I just don't like when kids are involved.
What did you expect going in? Was it that?
No.
Was it the plot twist that showed up? Were you expecting that?
What was the plot twist?
That she was a 33-year-old woman
Yeah,
the whole time?
I thought she was just like possessed or something.
And what do you think of that plot twist?
Weird.
Yeah. So the reason that I thought of this movie and that people are talking about this movie again is because recently there's been events where a couple is currently going through the court process because a 6-year-old girl they adopted threatened to murder their family a bunch and tried poisoning the mother. There's a bunch of different things. We'll get into it a little bit deeper, but as far as people know, that this 6-year-old girl actually is, she was 18 at the time. She's now 22, and nobody knows where she is, but we'll get into that. So that's the big reason why Orphan's being talked about right now, is because something very similar happened recently. And I know of at least 2 other circumstances where grown women were pretending to be kids and people fell for it. And it's pretty scary. Mm-hmm. I think that's why this movie's so effective. So 1 to 5 if you had to rate it.
Like, I didn't like it because I don't like what she did, but it was like pretty good for a movie. Like, it kept me entertained and like thinking, and
you look like terrified right now.
I was scared. It was scary, but I would say 4.
A 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it to people?
No.
Why not?
This is too scary.
Okay. What if people like scary movies?
Okay, then no.
Would you watch it again?
No.
Ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would, or yeah, you wouldn't?
Yeah, I would.
Just
because I know what's going on.
It'll just take you a while. So there's a few scenes in this movie that are pretty unsettling, and I was telling Melissa while we were watching it that one part in particular I almost threw up. So if listeners aren't sure, the movie Orphan is about a couple that adopt a little girl from a all-girls foster home, I guess,
home
right?
for girls. St. Marian.
And the little girl turns out to be a 33-year-old woman who is basically manipulating the whole family. She
escaped from a mental institute from Slovakia.
Yeah. And she's systematically getting rid of anybody who's trying to stop her from, I guess, seducing and being with the father of the family. And, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. And she's done it many times before. That's the other thing we found out.
Yeah, she kept a Bible of all the families she wrecked.
And
killed, I guess, really.
Yeah, the thing I liked the most about this was the artwork. The paintings I thought were really cool.
I thought those were cool. They were pretty cool.
It's just not your thing.
No. They were cool if they like glow in the dark.
I was going to be like, oh, good talk. I would give this movie Probably like a 3.5 out of 5. It did feel like a little long. The first time I watched it, I was super captivated because I didn't know the twist. I didn't know any of that stuff. I feel like it's old enough now. It's like 10 years old at this point that, spoilers and stuff is kind of out the door for this type of movie. But I would definitely recommend watching it or showing it to people who don't know the twist. That'd be a pretty cool thing, because that was the best part, was trying to keep the twist away from you. And you kind of guessed it when you started talking about the article that I brought up. I didn't want you to go too deep into it because it's pretty much the same thing about a little girl that ended up being an adult.
Yeah.
So, do you want to read some user reviews?
Yeah.
Or do you feel like reading the first one, or?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, here, I'll pass you the
This
phone.
is the 1 out of 10?
Yep.
Okay, this is the 1 out of 10. It says, irritatingly bad flick. I can't stand horror flicks where all kinds of really suspenseful and horrible manipulations happen because all the characters are either too stupid to catch on or too chicken to do anything about it.
Let's pause for a second. Do you feel like the characters in this movie were like too stupid to catch on or anything like that?
No.
I feel like...
I think they are also dealing with children who are like, I'm going to kill you and your mom if you say anything. Like, clearly no one's going to do anything about it.
Right. This movie, what it did best was showcasing how effective manipulation can be. Because in every level, I feel like every decision a person made, it was kind of justified to, like for the kids. Every time when I was younger, I was like, why wouldn't that kid tell his parents that she came up to him with a box cutter in the middle of the night? But then as an adult, I can be like, well, his sister's in danger, his whole family's in danger, he's in danger. So you have to kind of be smart about how you pursue things like this. And I feel like watching it now, I don't think there was anything in it, even though it's like an outrageous idea. I don't think there was any moment where I was like, oh, come on, except for maybe the dad.
Yeah, the dad. But, like, he only ever saw her as a sweet little girl. Like,
but also then again...
But he also didn't have any, like, reason to think...
Right, and they had trust issues between them already because she was an alcoholic. She relapsed, and he cheated on her, obviously, which was another thing. And yeah, I don't know how trust works after something like that, but that part kind of makes sense to me too. But also, like, in reality, if somebody was like, our child is a fucking murderer, like if you and me had a kid together and I started telling you, hey, our kid's trying to kill us, you would probably at first be like, what is wrong with you? Is there something wrong with you? Like, should we get you checked out?
Yeah.
And that I kind of understand. So I feel like this movie was pretty effective in that way. So that first part that he said, when I read that review, I was kind of like, I'll see if that holds up. But yeah. Okay, sorry, continue.
The whole deftly manipulative sociopath formula only works when the surrounding characters are of a believable intelligence and psychological depth. Here, nah. Check out the dad in particular. This moron is supposedly a successful architect, right? But a smart supporting cast wouldn't have worked here because guess what? The villain ain't too bright either. Most times I sit down with a flick like this, I can be a good sport about it and get entertainment value from the giggles and forehead slaps. But this one takes itself too seriously for that and has the gall to go on for 2 hours. That was long.
It did feel long. I don't. I'm gonna sound like a dick saying this, but I don't think it requires absolute intelligence to become an architect.
No.
You pretty much just have to learn to study how to use measurements. And, symmetry.
Yeah, and like part of the reason why architects are architects is because they can't be like psychologists.
Hot take over here.
I mean, well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Where are they? So it was just an irritating waste of time. I'm kicking myself for sticking it to the end.
Yeah, I didn't feel any regret watching that movie.
No, I
again.
thought it was pretty scary.
I feel like it holds up pretty well to the scare factor that I felt initially. The one thing I really did like in this movie was the false jump scares that they set up.
Yeah, like any other movie would be like, but like this one was like you'd wait for it and there was nothing.
I bet you somebody.
So it made it
listening-
scarier. I feel
I bet you when you did that, somebody listening probably shit their pants.
good.
Just because you got so much louder. Okay, so the next review, and let me know what your thoughts are on this, Melissa. This is from Halloween 2009, so the year the movie came out, pretty much like the month after. It's a 5 out of 10, and it says, "Oh yeah, ... which is the tagline. Maybe my expectations for this movie were too high because the whole storyline is full of quote-unquote stupid moments that have nothing to do with elementary logic. If not for the plot full of stupidity, the movie would be perfect. But all those mistakes were killing me all the movie, and half of the movie was spoiled by thoughts like, do they seriously think anybody could fall for that? Still, the acting is almost perfect, and I believe it was the best acting I could ever see, especially Max. One more rock in the garden." I don't get that one. "Ending is very similar to most horror movies or action movies of the 90s, and it would be way better to give people something new." Max was a really good actress for her age. So for listeners, Max is the daughter of the family. So the family had 2 biological children. They had a son, Danny, and a daughter, Max. And Max was deaf. So that brought like an interesting dynamic. Like we see it more often nowadays with movies like Bird Box and A Quiet Place, where you have people with some sort of disability having to try and like survive with a bunch of people who don't have that same disability. And I feel like having her as like the youngest child too, and not having the communication with her brother and stuff like that, it definitely added like an element of like challenge to the movie that most movies wouldn't have. Because like if you and me were in a house and somebody was trying to kill us, I could like whisper to you. And like sign language, if everybody knew sign language, that would be the best way to communicate silently. But if I'm trying to get your attention and you're deaf and you're hiding in the corner, I have to just like wave around to try and get your attention and then try and like mouth it out to you. You know, it just seems like it would be so much harder to actually like pull off some sort of stealth hiding scene with that kind of disability.
Yes, I agree with that.
But I feel like Max did a really good job as like the actress did a really good job like showing some fear, showing some happiness and stuff like that for a kid, you know? Like lots of kid actors, they're not really believable in the situations.
Yeah.
But she did a good job, like especially that one part where one part in the movie, they have, what's her name? Just like the lady from the adoption home.
Sister.
One of the sisters, one of the nuns. So she comes to check in on Esther, and basically Esther thinks that this lady's gonna get her taken away because she's looking too much into her background. So what they do is Esther takes Max. I think Max would be like maybe 4. She seemed pretty young.
I would say 4 because she wasn't in any school yet when the other kids were getting dropped off.
And they went to a bridge nearby, and they were going to stop the car. And Esther's way of stopping the car was pushing Max in front of the car so that the lady would see it.
She tried to kill her.
Stop. And do you think she was trying to kill her, or do you think she was trying to do what she was doing? And then if she died, she'd just be like, whatever.
Well, yeah. She didn't really care about Max.
Yeah. So she pushes Max out, and Max falls and starts crying immediately. And then Esther tells her she has to help her move the body off the road. And then this little 4-year-old girl helps her pull a corpse off the road. And the whole time she's like sniveling and stuff. They go back to a treehouse to hide all the evidence that Esther used to murder the sister. And this was like probably one of my favorite scenes that Max had in the whole movie. Is she started like crying and she signed to her. She said, "Why did you make me do those things?"
Mm-hmm. You tricked me.
And you could like almost believe it that she was in that situation. And that's where I was like, "Holy shit, this is getting kind of heavy." Because I think that was the first kill in the movie too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because up until then, I think the only other thing that happened was that
she pushed a
girl
little girl
was pushed
down
off the
a slide, and she like broke her leg.
Which, I mean, let's be fair, she deserved it.
She was kind of a bully, but like
we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But yeah, so that was the 5 out of 10 review. I think Vera Farmiga did a really good job too acting. She was super believable about like, you know, going through all the trauma and stuff she was going through and trying to start new, and then
this is a long one.
Yeah. And she made it believable that she was trying to put in a little bit of effort. Is it a long one? I don't know if it goes that whole way. No, that a lot of it's trivia. Where it says trivia is where it stops.
Oh.
So it's not that long. If you want to read that one, and then we can get on to some trivia and talk about the movie a bit more, about what you liked and didn't like.
Okay.
The dad, I think, was an okay actor, but I feel like, yeah, his character was frustrating at times.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel? Do you have any, like, pros or cons on the characters and the acting? Like, what keeps this from being like a 5 out of 5 for you?
I don't know.
Is it just because you felt uneasy watching it, or?
Yeah, like I wasn't happy.
That's fair.
Like at all.
It wasn't yeah. That's the other thing about this movie is like you get to a point, I think, after the bird scene, basically, where the rest of the movie is just tense. Mm-hmm. It's just pure tension.
Yeah.
And it does it really effectively. For being 10 years old, this movie is really effective in that, you know?
Yeah. Like it still holds up. With all the other movies that are out there right now, like this was way better than Hereditary, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you didn't like that movie that much either, hey?
No. It was stupid.
I'll let you read this, sorry.
Okay, this is 10 out of 10. Marky127 says, I don't get why there are so many mixed reviews for this film. I watched it not expecting much, but came away definitely feeling like I'd seen one brilliant film, and I even returned to the cinema to see it again with my partner. It seemed very unique to me with a brilliant twist, and the acting was tremendous, especially by Esther, Max, and the mother. I guess it's not a typical horror, and some people will go to see this expecting and wanting a typical horror film, which this is not, but I think many moviegoers of all genres would like this film, and you certainly wouldn't need to be a huge horror film fan to appreciate this. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a possession.
I have to admit the twist in this movie for me has always been almost on par with Sleepaway Camp type twist, where it's pretty unique, pretty original. Like I can't think of any other films that have a similar twist. And pulled it off. Like if you pitched it to somebody and said, okay, we're going to do a scary movie where a little kid kills a bunch of people, but they end up being an adult the whole time. Mm-hmm. It'd be like, okay, how are you going to do that? How are you going to make it believable? And how are you going to convince me that it was an adult when it looks like a child? And I feel like they did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
The transformation makeup was really cool too, where they tried making her look so much older. Like she was peeling off all her like kid stuff that she'd put on every day.
Yeah.
And it just made her look haggard. And she was like a 33-year-old woman in a legitimate 12-year-old body because the girl was like 12 at the time.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Okay, let's talk about some trivia here. Do you want me to read like 2 or 3 and then I'll pass it to you and we'll just go back and forth? Okay, so let's see here. There's some pretty long ones. In the screenplay, Esther was described as having fair skin, delicate features, platinum blonde hair. Although Isabel Fuhrman, who played Esther, did not fit this description, the filmmakers were so impressed with her audition that they cast her anyway.
Well, yeah, she's good.
Yeah, she did play a creepy kid really well. She was good at flipping that switch.
Yeah, like she was very, very sweet, like a precious little doll, and then
She was
all of a
very
sudden
likable at the
like-
beginning.
Yeah,
Part of me, like when I started watching this, because I haven't seen it in like almost 10 years, at the very beginning, I was like, is this the right movie? Because this girl's like too nice.
yeah. Well, when like I know it was the orphan, so obviously she's gonna be the one that's the issues. But like at the beginning, I was like, the only creepy thing that I thought it was like weird was that she was singing by herself and like being very, very lonely by herself at the girl home.
Which shouldn't be weird because I do that all the time by myself. You go to like any staff party at my work and I'm sitting by myself singing in the corner.
Oh yeah, just singing in the corner.
Yeah.
Great.
Doesn't everybody do that?
No, it's weird for children to do that though.
I think that's the biggest thing about movies like this is there's things that adults do that if children do them, it's very uncomfortable. Like if you were to show me a movie and it's just an hour and a half of kids vacuuming and doing dishes without their parents telling them to first, they just like get home from school, start doing chores. There's something very unsettling about that.
Oh.
You know?
Okay.
Okay, picture this.
Unsettling, I don't think is the proper word.
A kid comes home from like grade 2. Okay? Latchkey kid.
Okay, how does he even know how to do chores if he's in grade 2?
Okay, well, grade 4.
Okay.
I don't know. Like the youngest you can do before you're able to do chores on your own. You can reach everything. Okay, Home Alone. You're Kevin McAllister's age. You're like 10. Okay? You get home from school. Your parents aren't home. Instead of going to the living room and turning on the TV, he just goes to the kitchen, starts hand washing all the dishes. Then he starts vacuuming. Then he goes and does the laundry. And then that's it. He sits at a table and starts reading a newspaper. There's something really fucking weird about that idea to me. Of just like a kid doing stuff that adults have to do but don't want to do. Just like without being like forced to do it. Do you know what I mean?
It's weird. Are his parents there though? They went on vacation.
No. They're well, not an
So
actual.
someone's got to do it.
No, that didn't happen in Home Alone. But I'm saying like, let's say his parents work till 6 that night or something.
Well,
I'm just
maybe his
describing my
parents
childhood now.
Maybe his parents taught him how to do things right.
Okay, well, I guess it doesn't creep you out, but if you're out there and you think kids doing things that adults do is creepy, then just send me a message on Instagram.
It's not creepy.
So I know I'm not alone. You don't think that's fucking weird?
Like weird, yeah, but creepy. Like I'm getting the heebie-jeebies because a kid's doing dishes. No.
But if it was a whole movie of kids doing shit like that,
Why would anyone make a movie like that? They got a weird fetish then.
it's a horror movie because it's creepy. That's why they would do it. Just like a kid brushing their teeth without being forced to do it.
Everyone should
Unprovoked.
brush your teeth.
Right, but a kid being unprovoked to brush their teeth
Me.
and then like having a shower and then going
Me?
to bed.
Me.
All right, well,
I was a creepy kid? Apparently.
I would say so.
All right. Moving on.
Okay, so the actress Ariana Engineer, who plays Max, that's an interesting name. Their completely deaf biological daughter in the film is actually mostly deaf. She has cochlear implants, which enhance her abilities to hear and speak, which are the actual hearing aids from the movie. So that's kind of an interesting plot point. The next one is Max didn't understand what was going on during the making of this movie and thought it was all a game.
Oh.
Because she's pretty young.
Yeah, but how?
So they're like, okay, let's play a game. We're going to just take this lady's feet and drag her into a ditch.
Well, yeah. Like, that's how you got to get kids to do things. Be like, hey, you want to play a game? Let's wash all these dishes. That's how you got to do it.
Right.
And then
but
they
if,
think it's a game.
But if
And then
the
they just
kid
do it.
just goes and drags the body, that's unsettling.
She doesn't know any better.
Well.
It's a game.
Okay.
You know what kind of games I played as a kid? I was a...
You did dishes and you vacuumed
No.
because you're a fucking weird kid.
We played that we actually did live in an orphanage.
Oh my
and,
God.
like, we had to do, like...
Your poor parents. Your game was, I wish my parents were dead.
No, okay.
You were like, hey guys, let's play a game where our parents aren't in our lives anymore.
Well, all I had to play with was cushions. So we made fake, like, weird homeless beds on the floor, pretended we were outside.
What?
Being like, living like an orphan.
So you were like, my parents are dead, and the only way I could live a happy life is sleeping on couch cushions in this back alley. And that was your game that you played?
Yeah, I had a weird friend.
Think about how creepy that is.
Yeah, I had a weird friend. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's weird.
And then your friend's like, hey, come on, let's go do the dishes.
Yeah, like, what part of it was
that would
like,
be so fucking
part of
scary.
it
Come
was
on.
having like our sweater, and then we would put all of our like belongings in your sweater and wrap
you
it all
made a
up.
bindle?
Yeah, we made a bindle out of our sweaters and like
Jesus
put all of our
Christ.
stuff in it, and then we would take our cushions to like the other side of the basement, pretending that is like a different like part of the city, and we would sleep there for the night, and then we'd wake up and like, oh, a dog is attacking us, we have to run away, and like get all of our stuff. Oh, I dropped my like orange. Oh well, you can't go back. There's a dog coming.
And your friend was like, come on, Melissa, we just have to cut their throats really quickly, and then we'll be able to go to the orphanage.
No.
And you're like, okay, there's nothing weird about this. Do you want to do laundry after?
No, we never. Okay.
Just, okay.
I never killed anyone in my pretend days.
All right, if you say so. Mrs. Homeless Orphan. It's like Annie, like that movie.
Yeah, that's what it is. She loved Annie, and I think that's why we probably played it.
Right, because the sun will come out tomorrow when your parents are dead, and you have nobody to love or care for you, and you're left doing dishes and laundry unprovoked.
Yeah.
Come on, that's creepy.
It's not creepy.
So Isabel Fuhrman, who played what's her name?
The mom.
Esther.
What?
Oh, yeah, Isabel Fuhrman played Esther. She developed an interest in knitting from watching Vera Farmiga, who's the mom, pass the time on set knitting projects on like the breaks that they had, which is kind of interesting. Warner Brothers edited the film's trailer to remove Esther's line. Let's see if I can do it in shitty Russian like she does. It must be hard to love an adopted child as much as your own. That's pretty good, right?
No.
After receiving numerous complaints from adoptive parents and foster care organizations. However, the line remains in the film.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know, I guess I get it, but that's fucking weird. I'm going to read some of the short ones here, and then we'll start you off with some of the longer ones.
Okay.
According to the original script, it was strongly implied that Esther enjoyed harming and torturing animals. A minor subplot with Esther was killing and dismembering the Coleman's family pet hamster. It was written but never filmed.
yeah,
there was a scene with the hamster that they just briefly showed it.
And the hamster was like screaming.
Right. I think the scene with the bird was probably the best thing that they kept in, because
that was enough.
Yeah. It was, enough, I guess. Here, I'll let you read this one.
At the very, very top?
Yep.
Okay, it says, earlier drafts of the script included more information about Esther's past and explained why she attempts to seduce her adopted fathers. She was molested by her father for years, starting when she was an infant, destroying any future chance of her having her own children. Her father later took another lover, telling Esther that because of her condition, she could never be a real woman. She murdered them both and was ultimately sent to Sarny. Or was it Sarn? I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I think it was Sarn.
She worked as a prostitute in Estonia for a while. When she was arrested for this, she kept up the pretense of being a child to stay out of jail and was sent to an orphanage. Esther sees herself as trapped inside the body of a child, and it disgusts her. She wants to grow up and be a wife, a mother, and a lover, what her father considered a real woman, and tries to find love where she thought she once had it as a child with her new father.
I think that's such an interesting backstory. What do you think? Like if they actually showed some of that at the very end, just to like explain some of it. I think the issue and the reason they probably didn't was because it makes her seem a little bit sympathetic, minus how savage she got at the very end. But if they set it up, it would be like, okay, well, she was basically molested from the time she was born and basically like forced into the sex trade, and she couldn't have kids, and she's basically dehumanized and not treated as a woman. Like even that one scene where she tries seducing the father and he says, go to your room, and she looks at him and she goes, stop treating me like a child.
She doesn't sound like a old Russian ballet teacher.
Well, I have
it's
a
a
deep
little
voice.
girl voice.
Stop treating me like a child.
Yes, that's better.
So that's even creepier.
Well,
When she says that, that's when I was like, oh shit, did she just like lead Melissa like right to where the fucking solution was? And then they showed it in like the next scene, so I was like, okay, good. But yeah, I thought that was like pretty interesting.
as soon as she stood on that chair and held up the dress, I knew what was going on.
Did you though?
Yes. Because I knew that she was either
You
like...
knew she was an adult? You knew she was a full-grown
either
woman?
like... Not full-grown. Like, her mind was full-grown. Yeah, her mind was full-grown, trapped inside the body of a 12-year-old. It's happened.
Right, okay. Well, next trivia.
Okay, in earlier drafts of the script, Kate and John go to the orphanage not to see the girls for the first time, but to bring presents to Yolanda, a 7-year-old Puerto Rican girl whom they plan on taking home the next day. There, they meet Esther. This scene plays out almost exactly as it does in the finished film. Although she impresses them, especially John, she finds out that they have already planned to adopt Yolanda. The next morning, Sister Judith finds Yolanda hanging in the closet. Ooh. It is assumed that she died in a kid's game gone wrong, but implied that Esther killed her. John later suggests to Kate that they adopt Esther instead.
I think it's a good thing that they took that out of the script. Because imagine if they started it off right away with
like
somebody
with the
dying.
little girl, like also hanging herself, basically,
Yeah.
or looking like she hung herself.
Like that would basically just give away how like I feel like the reason this movie was effective is because they were able to build up the tension.
Yeah, they made her seem very, very sweet. Like if it would have started off with that, then you would have been like, oh, obviously this kid's gonna be bad.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's interesting that that's something that they wrote and wanted to include. But yeah, I think that's one scene that I'm kind of glad they kept out. Okay, the next one.
In earlier drafts of the script, Esther does not stab John to death. Instead, he discovers the blacklight paintings in her room. She jumps out from beneath the pile of stuffed animals on her bed, stabs him in the eye with a pair of scissors, pushes him down the stairs, breaking his leg, and then strangles him with a jump rope.
I feel like that would have been way better.
Really? I
Well,
think that'd be too much.
Because, like, well...
Where'd you get the jump rope from? Not a single person in that movie jumped rope.
Right.
Also, it was wintertime.
But if they made it to be like, oh, like... If they had one scene in it that they introduced where, like, you know how the dad yells at the son to be like, turn it down, I gotta work. If it was like they tripped over the jump rope one time and it was like, kids, can you please put your toys away? That's all they needed to put in that, to make that scene happen. I feel like because she jumped out of the toys, that would have been bad. But I feel like if she just came in while he was doing it and stabbed him in the back that way, and then he kind of came out and then fell down the stairs, I feel like that would have been like way better if she strangled him with the rope. Because like it was kind of savage watching her stab him multiple times.
yeah, it was
But
pretty rank.
I feel like it would have been a lot. It would have felt a lot more vicious if she like used her own bare hands basically to murder someone.
I think it was pretty vicious. She stabbed him way too many times.
Right, but
And like was like very, very, you know, like
yeah, but I don't feel like it was as vicious as like strangling would be. There's something scarier about strangling, like doing something with your bare hands or having it done to you with your bare hands compared to like a weapon. Like somebody shooting somebody, it's like, okay, well that's what that's meant for. That's a tool to harm somebody. But if you use your bare hands, or like a jump rope, something that's like playful and like symbolizes innocence in a way, like, or like, you know, symbolizes like shitty workout routines. It's something there's something sinister about that to me. Just like kids doing laundry.
Right.
Speaking of kids doing laundry, did you ever play hide and seek when you were a kid and like some people would like hide in the dryer?
No, we weren't allowed to.
We did that all the time as kids, and my parents would tell us not to do that because what if they went to do laundry and turn the dryer on?
Well, you have to open it up
Well,
first.
that was my argument, was like, bro, you're just going to start a dryer without putting clothes in it? I don't get it, but yeah.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to because my dad said if you break it, I'll kill you.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't actually say that.
I guess that's another thing.
But mostly, like, I remember asking if I was allowed to go in the dryer, and Dad said no.
He was like,
what are you doing?
You break
Why would
it,
you ask that?
You break it, I'll strangle you with a jump rope. And you're like, it's okay, Dad. I'm an orphan anyways. You're dead to me.
No, he says, you break it, you buy it. And I says, I don't have enough money for that. So I says, I'm not going to do it.
Because you're an orphan, right? Okay, next one.
Okay. In earlier drafts of the script, Esther pinned the murder of Sister Abigail on a homeless man in the park by hiding a grocery bag containing the bloody hammer and personal items from Abigail's car among the man's possessions. This was filmed, and part of it is featured as a deleted scene on the DVD.
See, that would have been interesting to me, too.
Yeah, but the whole point of it was, like, it was very family-oriented. Like, they lived on a, like, farm,
also
acreage, forest thing.
Right. This is the one scene that bothered me, was when the cops showed up to interview the family after they found the nun that they'd just talked to dead, beaten to death. And everybody already had suspicions about Esther except for the dad. And they were like, well, what happened to the lady that was here that had information about Esther that she wouldn't want to get out?
Yeah.
It's a shame that she died.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that would be a big red flag to be like, okay, this is a little too coincidental. That was like the only scene that I was like, fuck. But if they were like, okay, well, we found somebody that has probable cause because they're like crazy and homeless and they have the weapon and they have this and that, like, pin it on them, then it like brushes it off, and it also shows that she's like a little bit more intelligent than, you know, you might suspect, because she actually like had to plan out how to do the, like, pin the fall on someone. But I guess if she did that, then the son wouldn't have had an excuse to go back into the treehouse later on in the movie. So that's where things start to fall apart. And like, he wouldn't
have had any kind of like reason to go and try and show that she was the one who did it. Like, yeah.
Because that was the whole point, was to get evidence.
Like, yeah, there would be no evidence of her doing anything, really.
Right. Yeah, I feel like if the kids would have talked to the mom sooner, to be honest, like, if anything, it would have been like, okay, well, we're going to go stay at Grandma's. And Dad, if you want to hang out with Esther, you can, because you're a fucking weirdo and you seem to, like, not give a fuck about her personality issues, and the kids say she's trying to kill her. I think that, you know,
they could have
like
talked to their mom sooner. The mom could have kept her mouth shut, called the sister, and then the sister could have showed up, like when she did show up, instead of being like, oh, just tell me about how Esther's doing. I want to know what her health files are. Just been like, take her.
Yeah.
And then she could have dumped her off in like a psych ward.
Or another care home.
No,
another person's home.
No,
home.
To the psych ward. Or like back to Estonia, wherever she was from.
Right.
I said Slovakia, but to begin with. My bad.
The end of the movie, there's a fight between the mom and Esther in the frozen lake, where I think they hinted that Max had fallen in and almost drowned because the mom was passed out because she's an alcoholic. And the dad came in time and saved her. During the fight scene, the mom keeps getting stabbed. And the wounds are, like, so damaging that I don't think she'd be able to stand back up and, like, carry her daughter out, whatever. I mean, you have to have, like, a little bit of forgiveness with that stuff. But there's the scene where Esther crawls out of the lake and starts grabbing the mom to get back on shore, and she says, "Don't hurt me, mommy."
Yeah.
Right? And then she gets kicked in the head and falls in the lake. Do you think Esther died?
Well, didn't it show
Like, it
her
looked
kinda,
like her neck snapped.
sinking?
Right,
And, like-
but, you know, lots of horror movies do that.
But it's not a horror movie. She wasn't like possessed.
So?
We've learned she was just a regular human being
Right?
whose neck snaps. He done.
Jason was like that in Friday the 13th.
No, he was some sort of being.
No, he was human.
Really.
Yeah, he was a human kid that was bullied and kids drowned him in the lake because lifeguards weren't on duty.
And then he came back to life. So he was a supernatural being.
Well, there's more to it. You haven't seen that movie, but...
No. But this was literally just like born woman, grew up to be 33, but her body didn't develop.
Right.
She's a normal person. There
Right.
was no like powers going
Right.
for her.
So you think she died?
Yeah.
I'm going to give up some hope and say that she's alive.
Why?
I don't know. I'd like
Is there
to see...
Orphan 2?
I don't know. I don't know if there is. I don't have my phone, so I can't look it up, but I don't think there is. Because I think that the actress for this one just posted that they just had 10 years. I don't know how you could do another Orphan movie, though, because the girl would be aging too much, probably.
Her face?
Well, it would take like 2 or 3 years to film the next movie.
Oh, you're talking about like
Like
the
if
actress?
they did it right after. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, what about the next trivia? Is there quite
Okay,
a
this
few
is
left?
the last one. The film closely resembles the real-life Curum case, where a woman, Barbara Scruffla, was born with...
No, we're going to stop here. If you want to hear the rest of this one, because I don't want Melissa to know too many details about this case,
What the heck?
you're going to have to tune into next
You
week's
just ripped
episode
it out of my hand.
of Life Legends. Because next week's episode, I'm going to go full depth into this case. It's super interesting, and it was the inspiration for this movie. So
That was?
Yep.
Barbara?
Yep. So if you guys want to learn more about that, I'm going to tell Melissa all about that in real time in about 5 minutes and in podcast time next week. So
All right,
you can
see you
tune in and
next
do that.
week.
Yeah, I guess we should. It's already 47 minutes. Is there anything else that you want to talk about for the movie? Like, do you feel like we should talk about it more, or do you feel like you're
No, I feel okay.
okay?
I just don't like when kids are getting involved and like someone's gonna kill children. Like, don't do that.
So this episode's a little bit shorter than expected, but you know, I don't want to dive too much into the movie because I feel like there's a lot that you can still enjoy watching it the first or second time. So go watch Orphan and then come back next week and we will talk about the case that inspired it and the other current case that's going viral right now. Do you have anything else to say, Melissa?
Thanks for letting me read trivia.
Oh, you're welcome.
Love reading.
You can get in touch with us and follow us on social media at Life with Kenny Pod on Instagram and Life with Kenny Podcast on Facebook. I wanted to start doing something at the end of every episode. I don't know if you're into this idea, but like something where we could like recommend something that we want people to check out, whether it's like our own things or whether it's something that we're really into. Just to kind of like suggest things for people to check out if they want. Because I know a lot of podcasts do like, oh, I don't like recommending things that compete with my show. But I feel the opposite. I feel like it's kind of cool to like, you know, give people or things that I enjoy a shout out.
Yeah, okay.
Do you have anything that you'd want to recommend that you've been into?
I really like Kids Try Channel.
Oh yeah, you love the Kids Try channel. What's
just
going on with
so-
that? That one's the one where the kids eat food.
Yeah,
right?
they try different foods from around the world, and they're just like so cute and funny.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. It's Hi Ho Kids, I believe it's called. It's really funny.
Some of the kids are just ridiculous.
Like
they-
I get a kick out of it.
like
it's
they
so
would be
funny.
believable orphans.
What the heck?
Like, yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
No, it's not.
I want to throw a shout out real quick to this is one Melissa's probably sick of me talking about, but
Smosh?
no, podcast but outside.
Oh.
So it's two guys that do a podcast, but it's outside.
And they just like talk to random strangers on the street and give them $1.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. They did one where they had Tinder dates on the street. That one was interesting. They recently did one where they went to emo night in LA, and they interviewed Lil Xan, and Pauly Shore was there, and Gus Johnson showed up. So that one was really cool. So if those names pop out to you, you should check that one out. And the one they posted yesterday actually was really funny. I want to show you that one because Andrew, the one host, his dad was getting married for the 3rd time.
Oh, no.
And Andrew never met the stepmom.
Oh.
So the plan was to do the podcast at the dad's 3rd wedding.
Oh, my God.
And after they got married, he would meet his stepmom for the first time on his podcast.
Oh, my God.
And it's really funny. I definitely recommend it to anybody out there. It's such an interesting concept. And yeah, it's on YouTube and also on podcast apps. So if you guys need more to listen to, you can check that out too. So other than that, we'll talk to you guys next week when we talk about other spooky children.
I don't like that.
Ooh. Get a life.